London, England, 1713. The black-colored gates were closed. The eerie darkness of the cobbled steps filled me with dread. It was a feeling of terror that dwelled in my soul. Nothing compared to it, it was not comparable to any house I saw since. Donaldson quivered, as he saw it. "I shan't be going no further, Lord, I shan't go onward," he told me. I shook my ashen face, I shook, and, in my agitated state of being, I strode onward to the ancient house of Dark Skulls, with a purpose of attending the ball that was going to happen in 3 nights' time. Donaldson fled in his black-colored carriage. His shaking, right hand, struggled to hold on to the black-colored reins of the horses, as he yelled at the scared animals, and they trotted away into the darkness, and left me alone, to my doom. The House of Dark Skulls was the work of Abraham Carnarvon, an obscure man by any sense of the word. The skulls on the large, black-colored wrought iron gates shivered with blood. They dripped down the cobbled stones, and stained the vampiric walls. No humans could survive the house. In the end, Lord Seamus Olsen feared the chimes of Satan's bells, as it was correctly termed, toll 12. His long, black-colored hat was crooked, his long, black-colored coat and tails hit the ground. He knocked thrice on the demonic knocker with his right hand. A cold, chilling gust of northerly wind blew. Suddenly, with the fog coming in the London docks, the sounds of footsteps were heard coming towards the front door. Lord Seamus Olsen waited. And waited. "I don't want to wait too long," he said. Nothing. Silence. Then the doors opened. And a servant girl appeared. "What do you want?" the angry servant girl asked. "I am Lord Seamus Olsen. I am here for the ball." "I was invited," he answered. He stared at the 16-year-old girl. "You're early, Lord," the servant girl said. "I am not going to be. Where's your mistress?" Lord Seamus Olsen said. "My mistress is asleep. But she'll see you soon." "I'm Emma Carnarvon," she said. "A pleasure," Lord Seamus Olsen said, as if he doubted the servant girl's rudeness was part of her behavior, or something entirely different that caused her to make the Lord shiver. "Please come inside," Emma Carnarvon said, and she sighed. The front door shut loudly, and Emma Carnarvon watched the young lord, and her red-colored eyes gleamed in the gloomy hallway of the House of Dark Skulls. The framed black-colored pictures of Abraham Carnarvon, Lady Stella Carnarvon, Lady Edwina Carnarvon, and Emma Carnarvon, seared into Lord Seamus Olsen's mind. Blood gushed down their regal gowns, and top coats. And, in as they smiled, he screamed. By 1713, Abraham Carnarvon was banished by Lord Wesley Carnarvon in 1705, for, quote, building a house of skulls that wasn't part of the family, unquote. "But we must inspire greatness," Abraham Carnarvon said, "that is my inspiration. To live a life of niceness is not in my blood, to live a life of evil, is to live a life of the undead. Yes, I am a vampire. A man came to me last night. He said, 'Invite me into your house of skulls, and drink thy blood from thy neck,' and I opened the cold, freezing window in my chambers," he said. "I can't have a vampire cousin ruin our name." "Begone," Lord Wesley Carnarvon ordered. "Very well," exclaimed Abraham Carnarvon, and he strode out of Mistgate Castle, and never returned. Lord Seamus Olsen was born a Carnarvon. But, throughout his life of 24 years, he dwelled on the fact that he felt insecure. He imagined a life without feeding on a girl. Or a boy. The event that occurred before was in 1695. He was 6. The bright embers of the house burnt brightly. The Gothic hallway was full of the Carnarvon vampires, the hallway was drenched in blood, human blood. The heads of the victims seeped into the gates of Mistgate like a prize. It was like a badge of honor to kill humans. He watched his parents, Jim and Emily Carnarvon, smile with the others. But, for their son, Seamus didn't want to see the kills, he didn't want to see anything so horrific. And, in the end, another incident disrupted the thought of leaving. An incident that would haunt him forever. The sun went down. And, as Seamus walked along the cobbled road, he saw a girl. "What you're looking at?" she asked. Seamus shrugged his shoulders. "I am not looking at you," Seamus answered. He glided onward. The girl had pale skin, red-colored eyes, and was petite. "I'm Frederica Belaine," she said in a French accent. "A pleasure," Seamus said, and attempted to be on his way. But the obstinate girl was in the way. "We have a way to make you an immortal," said Frederica. "I don't want to be immortal, I want you to go," Seamus said. He walked past her. She giggled. Seamus didn't giggle. "What's the matter, young lord? Don't I please you?" Frederica asked, mocked. "I'm late for school," Seamus answered. "School? Vampires are immortal, vampires can do what we want." Frederica bared her sharp fangs, and then bit Seamus in the neck thrice. Hot blood gushed as she feasted on her prize, as she ignored Seamus's screams. Flesh ripped, and once the blood stopped, and Frederica was sated, she wiped blood off her face with her right hand, and spoke once more, "Now you're going to die, and rise from the dead. And when that happens, you'll be mine for the whole of eternity," Frederica said, and watched Seamus's body thud onto the hellish, vampiric cobbled steps near Mistgate Castle. 'Twas the eve of the foggy cemetery's opening, and a gathering of demons dwelled in the ancient crypts. They knew not what happened, they knew nothing of the time before when the semblance of evil deeds bespoke of dreadful images so full of horror that no man, woman, or child, lived there to tell their tales. Indeed, for a long time, the terror that befell Abraham Carnarvon, also befell everyone in his family. Harold Carnarvon suffered, Abraham Carnarvon also suffered. And that was a century or so apart. In my understanding, no such figures of death dared not dwell upon thy dirt. The graves of the undead weren't used by the Belaine hunters of Paris, the graves were untouched, the graves were not robbed, the graves were not blessed, it was unblessed. And, as such, the graves felt unclean to the Catholic Church of England. The unclean spirits of the vampires broke out of their graves, and bit the villagers. And, some villagers saw demons. They were conjured by evil ones who used satanic books, and fouled the air with ceremonies, and rituals. May not those who seek thy evil ones, for thy tongues hiss, thy eyes a black or red color, thy tails thud in thy foggy night. Thus, we despair for thy wretchedness that bespell us in thy church. And do we not evoke a sense of duty to decide forthwith, that thy evil ones are so strong, that thy prayers to God and Jesus Christ himself, is thwarted by those who dwell in the cemetery? And, do we fear them? Aye. We do. And, as thy servant of thy God, do I serve him, and his eternal glory, his glory that has beholden my devout soul. Aye. Now, let's pray. And let him take care of thy enemy, Father Richard Macready, 35, said, to his huge congregation of lost souls. Lord Seamus Olsen was sitting on a black-colored room in the warm fireplace. The heat filled his cold, dead heart. "Lord, do not speak ill of my mistress. She is busy," Emma Carnarvon said. "Well, won't she see me?" Lord Seamus Olsen asked. "Not for 2 more nights, m'lord," Emma Carnarvon answered. "But why was I summoned before the vampire and demons ball?" the Lord inquired. My business is not here presently, I shall go back whence I came," he said. "I sent for you, m'lord," Emma Carnarvon admitted. "Why?" he said. "Because, you're my destiny," Emma Carnarvon said. "I'm sorry, but you're a servant, you're not a lady," Lord Seamus Carnarvon said. He strode away. And, as he placed his dead, right hand on the front door of the mansion, Emma Carnarvon bared her sharp fangs, and bit him in the neck so hard, that his flesh ripped, and she savored all of his blood, which she drained with unnatural vigor. Because, for my story is nightmarish. If you seek my truth of thy story, read on, and feel the blood flow without interruption. And the shivering of the cold flowed along the Thames River. And, with the vampires and demons roaming the city, hell came again to Mist Gate. 3 nights later. London, England, 1713. So I says to John, John, ye are a drunk, and he smashes a beer on me, ead, John Fiber said. He spoke in a Spanish accent. Give it up, John. That accent won't attract no prostitutes, Vic, the barman, said. I got Maybelle last night. She, well, we, were romantic. Well, I got a lot of women around London. And in Spain. And France. And Portugal. And other European countries you can't pronounce. I go and have sex. And work. And kill. John Fiber said. What do you kill, John? Vic asked. Anything that doesn't look right. I know that there's vampires round Mist Gate. My old grandpa knew that Harold Carnarvon was feeding on dead corpses. Sometimes, he'd pick a stranger up and bite his neck back in 1624. Supposed to give him strength. I figure he is a vampire. He was killed by a stake and hammer in 1626 by a professor who thought he was the living undead. What people don't know was that Harold Carnarvon was a ghoul. And sorcerer. He summoned the dead. Demons. He did it because of his black power. He was into necrophilia. He did unspeakable things. You know, there's this grave robbing problem. If I see anyone stealing my ancestors' bodies from the cemetery, I'll sever their heads, and watch the heads roll down into their graves. Then I'll hammer and stake the rest of their bodies until they're dead, and the blood gushes at the witching hour, he added. I'm sure there's no vampires, Vic said. And, before he could speak again, a freezing gust of wind caused them to shiver. The vampiric group of murderers glided through the tavern's front door. Their red-colored eyes gleamed in the gloom, their long, black-colored hair fell down their backs, their long, black-ruffled long coats kept them warm, even though they were deathly cold, their long, black-colored boots stomped on the hard, red-colored carpet, as their focus was on John and Vic. Because, for my story is nightmarish. If you seek my truth of thy story, read on, and feel the blood flow without interruption. And the shivering of the cold flowed along the Thames River. And, with the vampires and demons roaming the city, hell came again to Mist Gate. 3 nights later. London, England, 1713. So I says to John, John, ye are a drunk, and he smashes a beer on me, ead, John Fiber said. He spoke in a Spanish accent. Give it up, John. That accent won't attract no prostitutes, Vic, the barman, said. I got Maybelle last night. She, well, we, were romantic. Well, I got a lot of women around London. And in Spain. And France. And Portugal. And other European countries you can't pronounce. I go and have sex. And work. And kill. John Fiber said. What do you kill, John? Vic asked. Anything that doesn't look right. I know that there's vampires round Mist Gate. My old grandpa knew that Harold Carnarvon was feeding on dead corpses. Sometimes, he'd pick a stranger up and bite his neck back in 1624. Supposed to give him strength. I figure he is a vampire. He was killed by a stake and hammer in 1626 by a professor who thought he was the living undead. What people don't know was that Harold Carnarvon was a ghoul. And sorcerer. He summoned the dead. Demons. He did it because of his black power. He was into necrophilia. He did unspeakable things. You know, there's this grave robbing problem. If I see anyone stealing my ancestors' bodies from the cemetery, I'll sever their heads, and watch the heads roll down into their graves. Then I'll hammer and stake the rest of their bodies until they're dead, and the blood gushes at the witching hour, he added. I'm sure there's no vampires, Vic said. And, before he could speak again, a freezing gust of wind caused them to shiver. The vampiric group of murderers glided through the tavern's front door. Their red-colored eyes gleamed in the gloom, their long, black-colored hair fell down their backs, their long, black-ruffled long coats kept them warm even though they were deathly cold, their long, black-colored boots stomped on the hard, red-colored carpet, as their focus was on John and Vic. A man appeared. He spoke in a threatening manner, I am Theodore Belaine. I will not be permitting more of my brothers and sisters, and cousins, and friends, to die. This is going to stop now. I shall behead the one who kills, it seems he is here, he said. He walked to the bar. Go away, or die, John said. You're the vampire killer. My, how brave. Or, shall I put it to you, foolish. There's many of us, there's only one of you. Now, do you want to die with honor, or to die with dishonor? I will count to 3, Theodore Belaine said. And then he lifted John high in the air with both hands, and broke his neck. And severed his spine. And, as John screamed, he fed on John's neck thrice with his sharp fangs, until more blood gushed onto his face, as Vic fled the bar in horror. I awoke. It was disorienting. And, as I saw Emma Carnavan, she smiled. Now you're mine, she said. And bit me thrice on the neck, until I screamed yet again, as I saw her sharp, bloody fangs gleam in the darkness, while others watched my distress, and laughed. London, England. 1713. The House of Demons dwelled within the center of London. Goblin statues surrounded the dark entrance, satanic statues also surrounded the place. They had 3 horns on their fiery, hellish skulls, their bodies were drenched in blood, their clawed hooves stomped on the hot ground. Their tongues poked out of their obscene mouths, as if mocking God. Davis walked slowly. He didn't have a plan. He strode forward. He reached the front doors. The demonic knocker was frightful. He banged on the front door with his right hand. And he waited. And waited. And waited. And waited. The fog seeped into the atmosphere. It strangled the air. Davis heard a noise. It was coming from outside, it was closer to the human thief. He then saw figures glide towards him. 4 women in ruffled, black-colored gowns. Their ample breasts heaved underneath their white-colored corsets, their slender legs were covered in stockings, their black-colored boots hit the ground. And blood gushed from their mouths. And, on their heads, were 3 horns. Welcome to the House of Demons, Lilith said. Now, what can I do for a thief? She asked, as she smiled. Davis Maygrove was 24. He grew up in London. He had short, black-colored hair, brown-colored eyes, and average height. He wore a black-colored, ruffled shirt, brown-colored trousers, a black-colored belt, brown-colored socks, and black-colored boots on his feet. Once he was inside, Lilith smiled at him. And what brings you here? She asked. Riches, Davis answered. Everyone has a price for that. How about your soul? Lilith inquired. No, Davis said, just jewels, diamonds, emeralds, and rubies, Davis said. We don't have anything for free. Your soul, or you die, Lilith said. I don't want to die, Davis said. Then you'll suffer, Lilith told him. And she grabbed a large pitchfork in her right, clawed hand, and rammed it into Davis's chest. Fresh blood gushed out of his mouth and chest. And within a matter of seconds, he died in the middle of the lounge room. In agony, Seamus Olsen was alive. He dwelled in the cells like a criminal. Let me out, he yelled. But Emma Carnavan smiled, and watched him with a look of triumph on her pale, hellish, vampiric face, as she grabbed a small pitchfork in her small knife, and spoke. Time to go to hell, dear, she said, as the hellish embers of the warm fireplace created a new kind of horror in London town.